Your boy is back. New kitchen, but same hairline. Time to start cooking. It's been about 1.5 years since I filmed my last video, which maybe won't make sense depending on what order I decide to upload everything in. But a lot has changed. You can see I have a new place, a new job, which is why I haven't filmed anything in 1.5 years. Most importantly, I have a new sous chef, Chef Eloise. Something else that's happened, as you probably know since my last video, is I was on a show called Cook at All Costs, where I took my best crack at Mexican food for Balding on a Budget alum, Rick Martinez. So let's make some more of Rick's food. At the time of filming this, Rick's cookbook recently came out. It has awesome recipes from all over Mexico, breaking down about 10 or so essentials from every region, as well as about 50 staples. Really, really love it and excited to cook from it. Today, we're making pan de Cazón. Did not pronounce that correctly, I'm sure, which is on page 169, nice, of the book. Now, I wanted to approach this the way I've approached my other videos and make this 2 ways. One less expensive and one more expensive. This dish calls for swordfish, and I figured I can make swordfish version, I can make tilapia version. Tilapia is cheap, it is accessible, no one knows what one is, no one's ever seen a tilapia in real life. But over the last few months, if you've listened to Internet Shaquille, our patron saint of food affordability and transient hobby interests, protein prices have been skyrocketing. And when I went to buy the things for this recipe, I found that per pound, swordfish and tilapia were essentially the same. They're not that much different from one another. So I decided that my variable wouldn't be a traditional ingredient, but rather the ingredient of time, not T-H-Y-N-E, just time. This is an awesome recipe, and it calls for a lot of things to be made. Staples like refried beans or homemade tortillas, and I figured, let me make it as described with the swordfish, and let me make it with the tilapia and see if I use canned refried beans, if I use store-bought tortillas, is that going to be worth the time you would save making those things from scratch? I've actually started on the first of these. In this pot behind me are some beans which did not soak overnight, which I panicked about this morning until I actually read the recipe for the first time, and Rick's first words were, "I do not soak beans." So in this, I've got about 1 pound of dried pinto beans, 3 scallions, a couple garlic cloves smashed, salt, parsley, and about 16 cups of water. Bring it to a boil, down to a simmer, cook for 2-ish, 3-ish hours until the beans are tender. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Now, Rick basically describes this dish as a loaded tostada with layers of fish, tomato salsa, and refried beans. So for the salsa, we want a bunch of Roma tomatoes. Here I have about 10, and you want to go ahead and core these out. What you do is you want to go ahead, take your paring knife, and just take the core out of the top of these tomatoes. A key step to the tomato coring process is to get a phone call from your mom in the middle of it, turn off your camera, and then just finish all of it so you don't get a good shot at any of them. Cut a white onion in half, and then as soon as your sister comes home, make sure she schools you on food because she knows a lot more about it than you do.
What are those things? Green onions?
Scallions.
Which are green onions, right?
Yeah.
Need about half of a habanero and 5 garlic cloves with the skins still on.
Line the skillet with aluminum foil over medium-high. Start adding the tomatoes to this pan. We're going to cook these, turning occasionally until they're black on all sides. Should be about 16 minutes.
After the tomatoes have been blackened on all sides, take them off the pan and put them into a blender nearby. Then take your cut onion and you want to place it cut side down on the same pan alongside the habanero. These each will take 9 minutes. Also add your garlic cloves, which will take only 5 minutes. Take them off after the 5 since you'll be peeling them and need them to cool before adding them to the blender.
After 9 minutes are up, add the onion and pepper to the blender along with a 1.5 tablespoons of kosher salt.
Blend at medium or low speed to keep the salsa a little bit chunky, just like me.
God, that probably makes a great Bloody Mary.
For the pickled onion, slice a red onion into thin slices and toss with half of a teaspoon of kosher salt. Cover with warm water and let sit for 15 minutes, after which you'll drain and toss with 1 cup of orange juice, a half of a cup of fresh lime juice, another half teaspoon of salt, and a habanero. Shake to combine and chill in the fridge. The tortillas are masa harina, water, and salt mixed together. Rick's proportion is 1.5 pounds of masa to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt to 1/3 of a cup of water. I wasn't going to make 2 pounds of tortillas, so I messed around until I got the right consistency. Once you do, let sit for a little while before cooking on top of a cast iron skillet.
Now you want your tortillas to be about 7 inches across. And by my own history of measurement standards, that might be 7 inches.
Once the beans are tender, transfer them to a skillet and simmer until all the liquid has evaporated.
Definitely don't try and default to any better Mexican food than yours. Now that most of the liquid has evaporated from the beans and they've been fried, it's time to mash them. It's a very easy process. Grab a potato masher and just think about the integrity of the United States Supreme Court.
Cook the fish over medium-high heat. Should only take about 2 to 3 minutes until you have a nice golden color underneath, at which point you should flip.
When the fish is done, transfer to a bowl to flake. Once the fish is flaked, we're going to add about 1 cup of the tomato salsa to each and mix. Make sure you're doing so under culturally insensitive supervision. That's what good pussy. Fuck, that was supposed to be half a cup, wasn't it? 1 cup if you're doing this normal, not 1 cup each. Now if you're like me, your controversial opinion prompt on Hinge is that there's almost no appropriate uses for cast iron. This is one of them.
Unfortunately, using a cast iron pan, cook the tortillas for about 30 seconds on each side and then begin to assemble. Start with just a tortilla, layer on top some of the refried beans, and then atop that put the fish and salsa mixture. Cover with another tortilla and repeat. Top with the pickled onions, and throw some avocado slices on the side for good measure, why not? That's it, but now you might be asking, what about the fast version?
Here we are. Time to pair these with a classical Mexican beverage. On this side has everything from scratch. This side has everything you'd find at a grocery store as is, with tilapia. I don't really know how to eat this. That's really good. Oh fuck, that's really good. Oh man, I don't think I've ever had beans that had this much flavor. Oh my god. And the tortilla is like chewy but kind of crispy on the outside at the same time. This is really good. The pickled onion is kind of leave it for me. I'm not really getting a whole lot. It feels like time well spent. Okay, let's try the quick one now. You know it is good, but what's really getting in my way is the tortillas here. A lot denser than these ones over here, and it's making the bite kind of chewier than I want it to be. You know, everything else is pretty soft and tasty. The salsa, the fish, the beans are soft, and then you have this like lumpy tortilla in the middle. That being said, it's still really good. I will also say the fish is a lot less flavorful in this one. So here's my take. You're gonna get more in this dish spending maybe more on a better piece of fish, and you're gonna get a better experience spending the time to make your own tortillas. I'll be the first to say I've not made a ton of tortillas in my life. I have made them before and they were better than these. These ones kind of fell apart a little bit. They still kick the shit out of the store-bought ones. Unfortunately, the real selling point of the time-intensive one is the beans. The problem is they take forever to make. I think I started at 10 a.m. this morning and it's 2:30 right now. As much as they give to it, I honestly don't think they're worth the time. What's nice is that it's easy to make a lot of it. So if you're going to make your own beans and you want to make this, or if you're used to making refried beans, this is a great thing to use them in. I really highly suggest it. But if you're only making this dish for yourself, I honestly say go with the store-bought beans. While these are a lot tastier, they will be a whole day's project. What might be a good middle ground is to buy beans that have already been soaked and flavored and then just fry and mash those. That'll take maybe 30 minutes rather than starting from dried beans and cooking them all morning. All that being said, both of these taste great, and hopefully it's the first in a long line of recipes I make out of this book. This is some pathetic looking avocado. Well, it's not ripe. That one's on me.